Okay, this is going to be a brake job on a 2016 Kia Soul, and I'm going to do the rear brakes. They're slightly different than the front brakes because there's a piston in the rear brakes that you actually have to turn to get off. You can't just compress it. So I got all my stuff here. I got my jacks, my jack stand, my cordless drill, a torque wrench, Akabono brake pads, some heavy duty silicone spray for lubricant, brake cleaner, paper towels, gloves, a 14mm socket wrench. I have some SIL-Glyde brake lubricant for the slide rods and for the back of the pads. Here are the brake pads I'm going to be using. They're Akabono ACT 1594. Now when I open the box, they look really small. I mean extremely small. Look at my finger. It's almost the size of my finger. So I got to make sure that these are the right ones. I'm not sure if they are. Also, they give you the metal pads with without any grease. So good thing I have the grease. So I'm going to take the tire off. I have the tires blocked. I'm going to take the emergency brake off after I get the car lifted, and I have my jacks. And I'm going to open up the brake reservoir when I get to that point. Okay, the good news is I think these brake pads are just as small as the ones I have. So in the back here are 2 bolts. They're 14mm, and it's the one on the glide pins, which are the little rubber gasket looking things. Those are the 2 that we're going to loosen and we're going to remove. So sometimes when you loosen these bolts, this nut also moves with it, but you can always put a wrench on it if you had to. It's not tight. I didn't need the pipe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top one all the way off. And I'm just going to loosen the bottom one. I have the torque specs for this on my description, but I'll show you too. Alright, the emergency brake is turned off. I'm going to see if I could just push this off. Might need a leverage. I got this big screwdriver. We'll see if it will help move that thing out of there. Actually, this piece doesn't move. It's this piece that moves. These brakes are pretty beat up. I could tell just by trying to take them off how beat up they are. It got 105,000 miles. Might have to take the bottom one off. Looks like it's getting pretty stuck in there. We'll see. Yeah, just take the bottom one off too. I'm going to see if I got a bucket to put this brake caliper on so it doesn't pull too tight. Now you can see that that caliper has those 2 pins in it that you have to push in and turn clockwise. It's also very dirty. I have a tool that will compress and turn that piston. I have a tool that would turn this piston. See how it has the slots in it? I have a tool that fits in there and compresses the piston, but I really don't want to use it if I don't have to. So after cleaning the piston off with some brake cleaner, I'm going to make sure it's clean, and then I'll put some silicone around the edges of the metal where it hits the rubber so that it smoothly turns, because if you could easily twist this rubber and you don't want to do that. Sorry, I'm getting some bad shots here. Okay, that's as clean as that's going to get. And I got the bucket here to hold it while I work on it. This really needs to be on here when you're pushing this in. We'll see. And that's just some silicone, heavy duty silicone. And I just want to make sure it's nice and wet down there so that there's no binding. Now I'm going to try these pliers like one guy did on YouTube. If it doesn't work, I'll go quickly to the tool. Oh, that don't look like it's going to work very well. I'm going to get the tool. Okay, on this piston there's 2 holes that you put the tool in. You want to make sure when you're at the end, I don't think you have to align this. I think it auto syncs. I'm using a pair of needle nose and some pressure to turn it. I also have this tool from Harbor Freight, and we all like tools, but I really don't want to use it if I don't have to, because I don't use it often enough. It's a MF11-1, and it's for brakes. I don't see the name of it. Here it is, 11-piece disc brake and caliper toolkit. So if this doesn't work with the pair of pliers or needle nose, I would have to use that. So I got both. So I'm just going to turn this with the needle nose. Seems to be working. I don't know if I can get a picture of that because it's kind of high. Alright, so we turn this piston with the needle nose. Let's see. We just did it. It worked really well. If not, I'll use the tool. I'm leaning more towards the tool, actually. Alright, there it goes. It turns, but you're also beating the hell out of that pin, the slots. I don't know if I want to do this or I want to use the tool. I'm more, at least it's not binding on the rubber. You got to make sure it's not binding while you turn it. And you're turning it clockwise. And I'm having trouble with getting the pliers in there. That's what I'm having trouble with. And I don't want to ruin this thing either. I'm tempted to use the tool. It's kind of hard when you only have two hands. You know, you really need to have this stable while you're doing it. Oh, fudge. Try it one more time, then I'm going to the tool. It's been working, it's just been really slow. I'm going to use the tool. So you get a little special time right now, you guys. Okay, so I got the number 7 on there. I got the plate on there. And all I do is just turn this. Make sure that the rubber doesn't kink up. In fact, I'm going to spray some more silicone on there just in case. You don't want that rubber kinking up on you. So when you're turning it, it actually compresses it. And you supposedly can't compress it. And you can tighten this guy here counterclockwise to get a better grip on it. You should do both at the same time. As you're turning this handle here, you tighten this to the left, and it looks like it's working fine. I don't know how much you turn it. I think it auto syncs after a while when you put it back on. Looks like it's fine to me. I'm not going to do it all the way. So that worked good. Worth $30, believe it or not. As much as I do brakes. Alright, so now we want to take out the old brake pad, which this one looks pretty good actually, surprisingly. Get the new brake pads ready. I don't know if it's better to do the front or the back. Oof, those brakes are in sad shape. Let me first, but I'm going to do this side because that's the way I started. Got a lot of these actually. Alright, let's get rid of these old ones. And all you do is lift them up, I think. There you go. Man, it was really hard to get out, believe it or not. Alright, I'm going to do that. I'm going to clean that first. And what I do is I usually put the clip back in before I start. I usually try to make sure I get one in. What the hell is that? Clean that first. I noticed some people online don't even clean the brakes. Alright, so that goes back in like that. And it's in there good. Alright, let me just make sure it's seated. Just make sure it's seated in there nice and tight. Sometimes it looks like it's in, but it isn't. And then the top one comes off too. There you go. And then hit it with some spray up there as well. And you do this. Hope you can see this. I think the camera's in the right spot. Alright, this one's not going in as cute as the other one. That one's in. This is the one from the rear. Look how nasty that is. I was looking for this little clip, because the one in the rear has the clip. This is the when it gets too low, it scrapes that and it lets you know that the brake needs to be replaced. These are in bad shape. I thought they were in a lot worse shape. So Hyundai said they needed to replace it, and I guess they needed replacing. But here's the replacement. It actually has the piece like that. I'll just try to mount it slowly. Okay, with a little effort I got them in on the back side. The back side's really hard, but you have to kind of work it. Alright, the front one shouldn't be that bad, because you can see the front one. The back one you can't see. You can, I guess, if you go under the car, but I don't want to go under the car. That's it. That's how simple that is. Alright, this is actually a lot harder than I thought it was going to be for some reason. Well, I had to use the tool, so using the tool was an extra step. On the back where you took the bolts off, you take the slides out. Usually you got to twist them a little bit and then you can pull it out. This is in there good though. Alright, so there's your slide pin. I'm going to clean it off and apply some SIL-Glyde. I'll have a link in the description if I can find it. This is what I use. And you got to apply some to the back of the brake pad. That's like anti-squeak kind of stuff. And I don't go crazy with the grease either. I just put just enough to cover. Some people put like gobs of this stuff on. Just keep it on the metal, don't put it on the other stuff. And then just slide it back in. Same with the bottom. Twist it and pull it out. Hold the boot if you have to. There's the other one. I'm going to clean it off a little. Could clean it with some brake cleaner, but I don't think it's necessary. Brake cleaner is kind of getting expensive anyway, so there you go. It's all lubed up, ready to go back in. That keeps your brakes from your calipers from wearing out. So I just put a little grease on the pad. I put it all over the pad. I just don't put it on the piston and stuff. In this case I should, because I can't see anything, but I'll do this on the whole pad. It's the back side of the pad, not the front. Don't put any grease or anything on the front. You have to make sure those are clean. Alright. That would have been easier if I did that before, but now there's two thoughts to this. Does the caliper automatically sink back in that hole or not? I'm going to twist this slightly with my pliers, which seem to work now, and I'm going to make it so it's parallel to where the brake pad is. So that's what I'm doing. I made sure that it's parallel to the fins on this, so it's nice and straight this way. Okay, I'm trying to get better pictures for you. I had to bring in the 17-inch wrench to tighten up the nuts because you got to hold this top one while you turn the other one. I mean, I've never had to do that before. This car, it just happens that it wants to spin. Maybe because I lubed it so well, right? And I'm going to just tighten this. Normally I don't care about the torque setting, but I actually have the torque setting and I have my torque wrench. And as long as I can get my torque wrench in there, I'll do the torque. But my torque wrench is pretty big. It's also brand new. It's from Harbor Freight. I'll have a link in the description. I have a link in the description, well, yeah, for everything. This is taking a long time. I don't know why. Alright, it's semi-tight. On the bottom one, same thing. Okay, I got my torque bar here. Harbor Freight. Description in the link. And it says 16 to 23 pounds, so I set it to like 21. And I'll just tighten that up as I can. I'm not a big fan of torque bars, if you ask me. It's on there good. It's clean. This side is done. It was my first side, so I didn't have mistakes. I did want to show the mistakes because you're going to run into the same problems I did if I show you the mistakes. In the description I'll have instructions that I've gone through. I'm going to read them right now, make sure I did them all. Just make sure you put the right pad in the right place. Remember, you have to have that squealer on the top, in the back brake. Cleaning the piston and lubricating it is very important. You don't want to mush up that caliper. Alright, that looks good actually. I may actually pump the brakes now before I do the other side. I like to clean it off before I go to the next step. Alright, when I got to the second side, I noticed that there was a little rubbing going on here, and I had to put the screwdriver down here and up here and bend it out a little bit. The little tabs on these shims rubbed against the rotor itself a little bit. I'll have to take the other one off and kind of try to move that out of the way as well, but you can just put a screwdriver in there and move it just a little bit, so now when you turn it, it doesn't scrape or anything. Alright, I'm going to go pump the brakes. Alright, this side's done. Okay, both brakes in the rear are done on the Kia Soul 2016. It took me about an hour and a half. The second one was a lot quicker because I got used to knowing what to do in advance. You can do the compression with these like needle nose, but it's a real pain in the butt to do. So I bought this at Harbor Freight for $30 on sale. Hopefully you can see that. And here's the back of it. If you could see that, I don't know. And I got to use my torque wrench actually at the end there. There's a little screw on the bottom. When you set the torque on gauge, you tighten the screw and that works fine. I didn't tighten the screw and it wasn't working right. So this worked well. Got this at Harbor Freight. Both items at Harbor Freight. I think this was like $10. It was really cheap. It was on sale. And this is $30, but it's normally kind of like $59 or something. It's pretty expensive normally. But you can do it with these, but you're going to have a lot of trouble. So in the end, I think it is worth getting this tool for $30 if you're going to do this more than once. $30 for the tool, $57 for the brake pad. Ecobano, which are the better brake pads. You can get brake pads for like 20 bucks, but those are supposed to be really good. And I didn't have to put any more brake fluid in either. It had enough brake fluid in it, so I didn't have to refill the brake fluid reservoir. Hyundai told me that these are condition red brakes, but when I took the pads off, they didn't look bad. I don't know why they say things like that. It was okay that I replaced them, but condition red, come on. So this is how you do a rear brake job on a Kia Soul 2016. It does have that funky compression. You can't just compress it with a C-clamp. You have to use a tool or pliers to get that thing to spin to compress. So, and check your emergency brake after you're done with the build. As I went along, I made instructions so I don't forget any of the steps, and I'll put that in the description below.